This is I Have No Title and I Must Podcast Reviews, and today we're reviewing Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. This takes place after Lydia has become an adult, and she goes back to her home after her father's death, and we find that she is still being haunted by Beetlejuice. I know that's an oversimplification, but I don't want to give too much away, because it could ruin things. But what were your thoughts on this movie?
Okay. I could not have been looking forward to this more than I was. And I didn't really realize how much I was looking forward to it until it got really close. Because it seemed like an impossible thing. Looking back on it, it's been rumored that there was going to be a sequel to this since the 90s. And that wasn't a rumor. There was real plans for it in the 90s. There leaked scripts and everything. You can look those up. So it gets thrown out there every few years, and then finally it was a reality that it's getting made, and then all of a sudden there was a trailer, and that looked really good. I gotta tell you, I was kind of 50-50 on this one. I did not love it as much as I was hoping to. I thought that this was going to be Tim Burton's, I'm back. And to some degree it was. I think, his name being attached to Wednesday was really good. That's the best version of that sort of thing that's been out lately, like Riverdale and the dozen other of those things that are usually just really cheesy with a lot of bad acting, like soap operas for kids with dark elements. It had really good elements. And here's the thing. I honestly thought, man, this is going to get torn to shreds. But people are not doing that. Yeah. It's like, think about who this was made for. It's not for a mainstream audience. It's for a very specific core group of people. It's not going to be probably a mainstream hit. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. I am glad that other people are enjoying it. It's a fun movie. It's not exactly what I was hoping for. But, it goes much darker than the original, which is pretty good. I felt like there was a certain presidential candidate reference, and I meant to ask you about this before. Did you catch that? Because I almost thought, is that what that's meant to be? Well, I'll mention that after the thing. If you go in, look for that. I'm not going to say what or who it is. It's a little Easter egg mixed in somewhere toward the end of the movie. So there is also an elephant that's literally throughout the whole movie. I wanted to address this too, because some people thought it was weird that they included it at all. But one of the actors who was in the original is apparently a criminal now.
Oh yeah.
And so James and Mason on the Weekly Planet, James specifically mentioned in his review on this. I listen to the Weekly Planet most weeks. I have for a good 10 years now, so I don't just scour the internet for things to say, but I do like to hear what other people are saying, since our podcast is not well known. He mentions this, and he talks a bit about Jeffrey. Is that his name? Jeffrey Jones?
Yeah.
And says, it felt like he was a really big part of the movie. Okay. So, yeah, because I think they didn't want to ignore it, but they also took the opportunity to with this character as much as they possibly could. And I don't know, mock seems kind of light for what they did. It's reminding you this guy is dead to us, reminding you we killed him in the most horrific way possible, that they kind of made into also a joke. And this is the only spoiler I'm gonna give, because it is, and it's not even really a spoiler, as it's in the trailer that's the reason they're going back, is the funeral. So it becomes this running joke, and an extremely horrific one. So I think that's the point of having that in there as much as possible. He's never really a plot point. He's just kind of in the background, and it is horrific. I morbid as So I liked that. Michael Keaton was great. He could not have been better. There was a lot of meandering side plots that we can't get into. There's the one in the trailer is Monica Bellucci's character, who is all stapled up, and that's actually a really cool visual. Everything with her is actually pretty cool. I felt criminally underused. It's not the main thing that you would think it would be from.
I think that's my biggest complaint I had with the movie, is I felt some of the elements, mainly hers and some other things that I'm not going to spoil, were kind of competing with each other and seemed kind of underutilized.
Yeah. My only other real complaint is, like, Jenna Ortega was awesome, and I felt like everything she did in it was, like, just right. Like, the way her character was written. Winona Ryder's character, I felt like should have, by the end of it, had this huge, like, kind of emergence, because she felt like the Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Logan character of this universe. Like, even though her stepmom is older and they've both reached like some critical success, that she's just, her stepmom is still this like narcissist, weird, like self-absorbed thing that like, though she has reached this level of fame and success, she doesn't really feel anything or empathy toward like other people. She is the center of the universe and therefore has had no growth or change. She's just exactly the same. Whereas at the beginning of the film, Winona Ryder's character has she has reached a level of fame and success, but is kind of at a real low point in her life, and she feels defeated all the time. Now, some would say that's her demure goth character, still an outgrowth of where she was in the first one, but she still seemed to have a level of intensity in the first one. So that's my complaint for her. I love Winona Ryder, and I love that character, and I just felt like, it's like, as much as I don't want to see a third one of these movies, I want to see a third one just so that they can like fix everything that was wrong with this one, because I do love these characters. I think it was such a great idea, and it is like Tim Burton kind of back to a lot more. They even added in a tiny little bit of claymation.
Yeah.
And which, you know, in the original one there was claymation with like the sandworms and stuff. I think a bit. Some of it was like a giant practical effect, but very little of it. It was just kind of something they could put on screen with some of the actors at the time. Our friend of the show, Becky, whatever she decided on to be called that day, I call her Becky for 30 years now. She loved the song choices, especially the song at the end, which apparently featured Richard Harris, Dumbledore. She sent me a whole thing about it afterward. I had never heard this song, but it sounded oddly familiar. And while I was in the theater, like, because, you know, the first one's song heavy, so these are not spoilers, because I was like, are they doing too much with music here? I hadn't watched the first one in a couple years now, and I hadn't had an opportunity to watch it again recently, and I was like, oh yeah, like, music was such a huge part in the first one. Like, they had all this weird, like happy calypso.
Yeah, they made it a point that Alec Baldwin's character like loved calypso music.
Yeah. So in this one, you know, like, there is music throughout, and it's like kind of it's not just like the music you hear. The soundtrack is actually pretty cool. Some Scott Weiland from his first solo record, 12 Bar Blues. And I didn't catch or write everything down, but I was noticing like some interesting choices. So this big feature at the end where they do a very similar scene to the dance sequence in the first one uses a very strange song with very strange lyrics, and it sounded so familiar to me when I was like, Weird Al covered this. Weird Al like did a parody of this, and it was about Jurassic Park, and you can look up both of those songs. It's everywhere now. This is Tuesday, we saw the movie Thursday evening, so and by the time anybody hears this, I'm sure it'll be at least a week out from the opening of the film, so there's probably going to be bits and pieces on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever. So I don't know. I'm sure Weird Al has seen this and is pretty excited about that, because it's got to have funneled some people back to that song on YouTube. Yeah. I think it may have had a video. I cannot remember the name of his song. Anyway, and I don't want to, for anybody that's like, if I am creating some sort of intrigue, if I've made it sound like I'm giving this movie a bad review, I'm just telling you the things that I would have changed. There was a lot of really good jokes in it. There was a lot of Tim Burton returning to dark aesthetic. That's something that's been missing in his films for a long time, and a return to something that you would have remembered from your childhood, but much darker.
I'll say for me that as far as sequels go, this was pretty good. As far as a sequel 35 years in the making, this was great. As far as the sequel we could have gotten, had they made a sequel in the 90s like they had planned, this was fantastic.
Yeah. From the plans that I'd heard from the one in the night, it didn't sound good to me.
No, not at all.
And I was always like kind of, well, I'm kind of glad they didn't make that at the time to give themselves some time to think about it. And it gives you some real world context that you want to go back to the original location, and you want to see how these characters have grown and evolved from all that time. They don't do some things that, you know, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Fox did with those characters, where they take a beloved character and completely them over and destroy their lives or whatever. It's not really that, because you do get some nice resolution. There are good elements to this. I love the effects. I love the way the characters looked. You know, there's some real twists that you might not see coming, and there's some hints and clues to that, so it's not impossible to figure out. I wasn't overthinking Beetlejuice while I was watching it, so some of these actually did take me by surprise. And yeah, I mean, overall, the reason I'm holding back on some of these things is like the song choices and whatever, is because I do want people to watch. If you're undecided about watching it, or if you were just waiting until October or like closer to when there's a nip to the air and it's darker in the evenings, and there's a lot more Halloween in your life, and you want to, if you were waiting to watch this until just the right time, do it. Like, wait for it. Wait till the time is right for you, but do watch it, is what I would say.
Yeah, and I think that'll lead us into our final ratings on this. And I think how we decided to do ratings from now going forward is we're going to say whether or not watch it in theaters, stream it, skip it, or add to your collection. So for me, I'm kind of in the middle of all these, because I think if you are a hardcore Tim Burton fan and you love Beetlejuice, I say go see it in theaters. For me personally, I would probably eventually add it to my collection, but for the average viewer, I say just wait for streaming, but definitely watch it.
Yeah, you have to be that person too.
Yeah.
I pretty much agree with you on all these things. I collect DVDs in a sense. I mean, not just anything. It's got to be close to the genres I like, the directors I like, the actors I like. But I mean, like, I want to get as much as I can of physical media, because you never know when a streaming service just decides to, and it's gone. Like Willow or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to watch Willow, but it's just insane how much modern, like, lost media is created. I'm sure somebody has these things backed up somewhere, but then you have to, if you want to see it for whatever reason, or prove that wasn't Ted dancing in a window or whatever, that's 3 Men and a Baby reference.
Yeah.
Anyway, then you have to go to some like bootleg site or thing, or download it illegally or whatever. So I collect everything. Do I think everyone should go out and see this? You're gonna be mad at me if I said yes, because it's not for everybody. And that's the thing we have to set our expectations to, is who are, when people get mad and say like, who was this movie for? This movie is for people who liked the first one, people who like Tim Burton in general, and people who like fun, dark things, but not straight up horror. And maybe some, I mean, if you're expecting horror from this, you're going to be disappointed. It's not that, but you know it's not that. That's not what Tim Burton does. He's had plenty of opportunity. He made Dumbo. So anyway, yeah, but go see it.
Yeah.
Like, it's, and the thing is, we're in the middle of September. We're right around the corner from Halloween. If this isn't your type of movie, but you're looking for something Halloween-y to do because you claim to be goth year-round, even though it's really only 1 month out of the year, go see this movie. Yeah. What are you waiting for? You're goth year-round.
Yeah, to put a final tick on this, I'll say we went opening night. So that means we paid opening night ticket prices, and I did not regret spending that money, which I have on a lot of recent theater outings.
That's a rousing endorsement.
Yeah.
I just want Tim Burton to be able to make more of these things, so I will support that. And like, Jenna Ortega, for some reason, keeps coming back to roles like this. Right now, she could be in huge movies, but she keeps doing things like this. And that's pretty cool, because she's actually, I think, she has more talent in acting than, like, the roles she's choosing is probably allowing her to be. So I want these people to be able to make more stuff like this. Support them and give them a little bit of money.
Yeah. So with that, thank you for joining us. Let us know in the comments if you've seen Beetlejuice, what your thoughts are, if you haven't seen it, if you plan on seeing it now. And be sure to follow us on our social media, like and subscribe. We'll leave links for all that in the comments. And until next time, see you.